Stadia's new game demo system is a big deal, and I've yet to talk about it on the channel due to my recent move, but it's about time I do. These free trials that they're hosting have always been something I've advocated for since the very start, and many others have as well. For good reason too, because the best way to convince somebody that cloud gaming is for them to try a game they enjoy and play it themselves. I can sit here making video after video explaining just how good it is, but ultimately speaking, the user experience is going to change from person to person. Some people have higher tolerances for latency, some lower, and then there's the fact that seeing is believing, or in this case, playing is believing. Whenever I talk about data showcasing that both Stadia and GeForce Now can match the latency of local hardware or sometimes even beat it, it gets called out all the time. Some people just frankly don't want to believe it, and then there's people who just really want it to fail. Game demos and trials serve a more important purpose than just allowing Stadia users to try out a game they're interested in. They allow new users to experience cloud gaming for the first time in a genre they feel comfortable with or a game they recognize. They also allow people who are very skeptical of cloud gaming to easily hop in and play. And the way Stadia is currently set it up, they've made it as accessible as possible. And that really is the key when it comes to driving people toward actually giving things a go. I can't state enough that removing as many barriers as possible between the end user and the trial itself is super important. I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who stopped signing up for a free trial the moment it asked for my credit card info. The Stadia team has my respect in that regard. They made the right choices here when it comes to trials and demos, and I think it's a fantastic start. Sure, you still need to have a Google account, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head in my own life that doesn't have a Gmail. Now that I think Stadia's kind of nailed ease of access when it comes to demos, I would really love to see them take on integration into other Google-owned properties. Once again, this is something that many others and myself have constantly talked about, and it's something that Google themselves even showcased when they first announced Stadia, and that's integration into stuff like YouTube. Yes, we have click-to-play links, and they are very useful for sharing it pretty much everywhere else on the internet. Heck, you can even share it on YouTube by putting a link in the description or the comment section. But to speak from a user's perspective, seeing a play now button next to your YouTube video would be so much more enticing than just clicking on a URL. Maybe that sounds kind of dumb and pointless, especially when you can just click on a link and get the same result, but it's shiny and people like shiny. Now, to be very clear, I don't know how much more work it would be, but the fact that we already have play now buttons when it comes to joining a party of somebody who's streaming, I doubt it would be that much more work to make it happen. The whole idea of somebody watching a trailer for a game that has a demo or trial on Stadia and them being able to just play that game instantly by clicking a play now button is really mind-blowing stuff to me. And I think Google is well aware of the potential impact that could have, otherwise why did they make those mock-ups when they first announced Stadia? It still probably is in the books. And I could very well be oversimplifying just how easy it would be to implement, but I think that once they do this, it'll be a huge boon for Stadia. Speaking for myself here once again, I know I've seen plenty of trailers for games I'm so curious to try out, but having to download the game or make space on my hard drive is more than enough for me to just put it off to the side. And I seriously see this being a really good marketing tool not just for Stadia, but game developers and publishers as well. And even thinking past YouTube, imagine integration into the Google search engine itself. Looking up a game and then seeing a demos available to play and just being launched instantly to it. That sort of integration just seems so beneficial to me. Now that we've talked about the importance of ease of access and how they've already taken the right steps toward that goal, and how integration can really push trials and demos to thrive, I really want to talk about the future of cloud gaming and how demos are going to be affected. Relatively speaking, in the console space, demos are pretty damn rare nowadays. I remember when I first got a PS3, I completely lived off of demos for a good while, because all my money was spent on that big price tag. Nowadays, if you were to buy a PS5, you wouldn't have many demos to play. Sure, free-to-play games exist, but in terms of demos, there's really not much. That sort of content kinda got replaced with the idea of free-to-play weekends, which Stadia gets a fair amount of as well. I mean, even at the time of this recording, Far Cry 6 currently has a free-to-play weekend on every platform, and it's examples like that that really make cloud gaming enticing. Do you really want to download a 60GB file to play it for a couple of days? Or you could just play instantly the moment the free-to-play weekend begins and enjoy it throughout the whole weekend. Or better yet, maybe you have no interest in Far Cry 6. Maybe it's not worth your time to download it. You're bored, so why not check it out through streaming? I know I myself have done that very same thing before, both on Stadia and GeForce Now. And surprisingly, there's been one time where I actually purchased the game I had no interest in because it turns out I enjoyed it. And this sort of thing happens more than you think. Recently, Xbox talked about Game Pass Ultimate at GDC, and they found that the average user subscribed to Game Pass would actually spend more money on games rather than less, despite having all those games accessible. And that's because those very same subscribers were on average playing more games and genres than they normally would because they're available right then and there. Cloud gaming can take that to the next level with both trials and demos because it's a very similar effect, being able to play games you might not have interest in and falling in love with them. Stadia is not the only one who's pushing this sort of thing. Xbox has already stated that they have interest in doing the very same thing, so has PlayStation. Allowing people to try a game without having to download it is a selling point, and Stadia can really capitalize on that. And I say that mainly because of Google's ownership. They own some of the biggest search engines in the world with both YouTube and Google.com. I really do think that this is all going to lead up to a resurgence of games having demos or limited time trials. Google's latest implementation of it all just seems so perfect to really take advantage of it. At the end of the day, only time will tell whether or not this ends up coming true. Let me know what you think down below. Do demos and trials matter to you, or do you really not care for them? Whether you agree or disagree with me, your viewpoint is always welcome. Now, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out, and if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. As always, this has been the Virtual Cloud, giving you the latest and greatest on everything cloud gaming related, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.